Loops and quirks, DiNo, and workarounds. So, hope you heard that. On the loop side of things, I meant to record this on Friday, but I was in the middle of considering, right? Okay, I'm going a horse track on Saturday. Maybe I'll record it Saturday. End up just kind of burning over into Sunday, bleeding in, right? Like, well, granted, I was on the road for 4 hours all of yesterday, so I don't know. It kind of like you just kind of block out a whole day, and you don't really feel motivated or have the desire to like record something. I know it's pretty easy, especially this type of style. Just like, I want to kick back. I've been at a track for like 4 to 6 hours. Why am I gonna record something that's so simple or whatever? But speaking with that, like behavioral loops or systematic loops or maybe even hiring loops. Like what is the kind of system or process, and why is it set up in a certain manner? And you could set up like I love the very engineering style like diagram where it's something so basic, you stare at it, you look at it, and you're like, oh, this is how it works. Awesome. And people that can explain things that way, right? Where you can kind of just image it in your own head while they're talking about it. That's what I want within, let's say, hiring practices. I want a very transparent system. I want a very understandable approach to things. If this, then that. Let's not make it look like a lottery system. Let's make it very transparent, up in your face. Okay, this we have a pool of, 100 candidates. This candidate 1, 2, 3, 4, or whoever got a position gets the position and is like showcased like a trophy horse. Going back to horse track, right? You're looking at all these horses and you strut them out, see like what's going on here, and then 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, they're on the track. They're and then once they finish that track, they're strutting them out. 1, 2, 3, walking across the crowd. So I guess that mentality is kind of similar, where it's just the loop. And I find certain like societal behaviors, corporate behaviors, just so strange and like counterintuitive to the process. Now, I don't know. I think every posted job must be filled, right? I think this should be like a federal requirement. We got all the things with discrimination, whatever. If you post a job, you must fill it, right? Like this should be funded. There should be no ifs, ands, or buts. If you violate this, like in principle, like there, it feels like a country that my grandfather was born in is not the same country I was born in or have to live in, and it's like these weird death of companyman attitudes don't really fall in line with the practices I would expect. And it's funny, there's still like certain heritage companies out there that have been around for generations that still have this. And maybe this is the Plato's, that's what I was going to do, the Plato's cave. I had, man, hold on. I had this like deal where like the whole concept, you're like, all right, are we just living in some version of like Plato's cave when it comes to, all our like work attitudes and just strange ideas and concepts from within? And I don't know. It's confusing. And it's like the shadow you're seeing with all... You're shackled and you don't know what's going on here. And you're like, mentally I'm outside the cave, but like I'm looking in, right? I'm looking through the looking glass. I'm looking through the Palantir. I'm seeing things I don't want to see. Meanwhile, I know things could be substantially better. And it's like this weird like mental prison that most people or everybody has to go through. My age. Aside from that, like the mentalities to break through from things or out of things, you have those workarounds, but we'll talk about that briefly next, where seems like the straight line solution is travel. I need to immerse myself in a foreign country, to step away from the dynamics of this weird engineer profit focused ideology, right? I don't see not hiring, talent as profitable. It seems like a waste of time. Why are we wasting resource, right? It's all ties to resource accumulation and resource allocation, which is ironic as a capital allocator, but the motivation doesn't fall in line with the practices or attitudes, right? And that's why I say the death of company mentality is very strange, but players, the cave, the internet's the cave, which is funny, but it'd be very like, I don't understand, and this is probably why I'm very frustrated about this stuff, and why, if this thing I am working on, when it takes off, when it works, if it works, right? You got to stay humble in that regard. Tooling this culture down from the top, like, it's like, well, I want what my grandfather had for everybody I employ, including myself, but I think at a certain point it's just like draw whatever in salary and then just get stock comp, and whatever the ownership is the ownership stake. But having substantial voting rights compared to everybody else, right? Like, if there'd be a way where I'd have 2% ownership of my own company, but I have 80% of the votes, honestly, fair ball, right? Like, you're my bitch. But aside from that, obviously it's like a power dynamic that is interesting. But aside from that, it's like, you want owner operators. I don't understand why. It's like, well, we want you. We have old blood attitudes, new blood, like flesh. What's going on here? It weirdly set up for like vampirism, economic, financial. Systemic vampirism, for lack of better terms, and it sounds colorful, so it's nice. And then, obviously, I'm with this regard, right? The travel aspect. I am really considering digital nomadry, or whatever you want to call it, where you get a visa, go work in whatever country for 6 months to a year. I'm looking or considering Japan or Australia, but this is like a hair trigger kind of thought, or it's like, well, Tokyo, Japan, and do that for 6 months. I gotta, prove my income, which is nice about tax season, but another story. And then, I don't know about Australia, but I can theoretically can get a visa for a whole year, and then maybe extend that out for 3 years. Now, I think it's a higher cost of living. People sound cheap when they talk about digital nomadry. It's like, I'm not a digital gypsy. I don't have all my money here in a portfolio and crypto, whatever. Like, it's different. It's different. And, the whole attitude that I find very frustrating, too, is that no one's really wanting to get diagnostic with, like, you specifically. Aside from doctors or whoever, it's like, okay, we need to cater some solution towards you. Or a personal trainer, or this or that. Where, I want this more, I'm blanking on the freaking term. It's not custodial. Man, I was using this term too, like recently. Like the people concierge. I want more concierge. Like, why aren't things set up to be more, client focused concierge style versus one size fits all? Let everyone just bleed attrition, waste money, even like having applicants apply and things of that nature, where attrition based systems seem redundant to me, where it's like I would understand it in like a war industry type of thing. Well, we have to test this drone 100 times in order to figure out its weak points and strengths and reinforce the weak points, and then keep testing, like this systematic, Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, the project approach, where V2 is better here, but not here. And then V3 is better here from V2, but compared to V1 is completely, different, where now there's completely different weaknesses versus, the systematic improvement seems to be more, in line. It's like, obviously there's weaknesses here. Let's kill those weaknesses so we have more strengths, or we can play into our strengths. And I don't know. I don't think companies, I don't think people, I don't understand why people don't lean in. If I'm good at this, I'm going to double down on this because it makes me better at this specifically. And I think with all the AI stuff, you can play into it, but it's like, I'm not using Claude to, train me. I'm using Claude to improve my own processes, right? I don't like ChatGPT, but it's nice for like pinging ideas, but I hate that it's a yes man. I want some opposition. I want some light-handed opposition. Constructive feedback compared to, yeah, this would work, blah 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 blah, or no, blah 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 blah. But if you do this, it's like, dude, I don't need a yes man. Just tell me if I'm right or wrong, explain why I'm right or wrong, and then help me understand why I'm right or wrong. Or, give me more ideation. And I think that's kind of what like spurs off the thought, where it's like, I should go to these other foreign countries, travel, whatever, get a better viewpoint of the world so that I can reintegrate into, into the machine, into the beast, into the corporate world, into my company, whatever, into my own personal life. I think the same thing applies, right? It's like this skill set that, especially with backpacking, is going to be very interesting with my travels here in the coming months. I'll finally travel first time solo, so that's going to be neat. But there's different mentalities and the workarounds around just tethering this all together, right? Working around your environment. What is the situation? Give me a status update. How do I work around this? How do I see or understand the system, this process that does not allow me to do something that I've grown accustomed to doing, but I can't because, let's say it's custodial, let's say it's legal, let's say it's this. How do I approach this appropriately in order to accomplish my goal without violating whatever I'm not allowed to do? Or working around whatever I'm allowed to do, but because I don't have a certain, profile, whatever the case may be, that's kind of the mentality. So let's say I'm in a rut. Maybe I do need to travel, and I've been needing to travel for 4 years. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But I will see after, right? That's kind of this weird approach. And I think the same thing with taxes. Let's say taxes, right? I made the most money I've ever made in a year. I know it's not a lot comparatively to other people. It could be a lot, but I feel broke, right? And, there's this large number, let's say, sitting in my savings, but I have no idea what the number I owe the IRS per se. And as someone that's, play by the rules, it seemed to make sense. But if there are loopholes, use them until, they're it's like you want to break the game, right? You want to play a faction, whatever. Let's use Total War, because I was just playing that with my friend yesterday. You're playing a faction. You want to use and abuse its systems in order to expand out your armies, expand out your empire, expand out your treasury, whatever, so you can reinvest into your armies, your cities, your capitals, whatever, and then expand your empire. Same approach stands, and there I go with that word again, that term again. Structure. I think it's structuring. I think it's all the structuring, in the workarounds. But I believe I'm roughly out of time. I don't want to go over. Instagram's kind of annoying about this. But please subscribe, leave a like, ring the bell. Thank you for watching. This has been episode 13, I believe, of the Founder Logs. Bye.